Hey everyone, it's Myriam and welcome back to another video. So before we jump into this week's paintings, I quickly wanted to tell you guys that I've got a sale going on in my shop. It's 20% off prints and stickers and I lowered the prices on my originals. You can use the code SPRING27 to activate your discount, and the sale will be going on from the 12th of May from the time this video is uploaded. So as I am speaking, the sale is now live and it will end on 20th of May 10 PM BST, so London time. Patrons get 25% off no matter the level of the pledge for the duration of the sale, so if you guys are interested in checking that out, you can go to my Patreon page in the link below in my description. You can also find the link to my shop and the discount code in the description below if you guys are interested. Please don't just pledge for the sale and then delete your pledge before you get charged in June. I'd really appreciate it if you decide to pledge, if you stayed at least for 1 month. I hope you'll understand that. But anyway, if you're interested in all that, all the links are in the description below. This sale is just to say a massive thank you, because things have been going beautifully well, and also I recently bought myself a printer so that I can make your prints myself, and it's also to celebrate the fact that it's spring and the fact that it will be my birthday at the end of the month. So it's just a little package sale for all the things that have been going well, and just to say a massive thank you to all of you who are supporting me out there. Being an artist is probably one of the toughest jobs I've had to do, and I've done a few that were quite harrowing, so it's also the best job I've ever done. And I mean, it's difficult not to get emotional, but it's difficult also to say things in a way that actually seems genuine without reusing words that have been used over and over again and just became a bit stale in the process. But I really, when I say thank you, I really I mean it to the deepest level of meaning thank you, because it's true. It's the fact that I can do this almost for a living. I mean, I'm not quite there yet, but it's definitely evolving in that direction, is mind-blowing. It's a job I never imagined would be possible for me. Back when I used to draw and thinking that it was the only job I wanted to do, I had this really, because I grew up in France, and in France art isn't really particularly believed as being a proper career. So it was something that was never, my family believed in me no matter what, but everyone else around me, like teachers and such, didn't believe it was a viable career. And so it kind of was ingrained in me that I couldn't possibly become an artist for a job, and the internet changed that. You guys, by supporting me, by being amazingly lovely, by being willing to be here and be encouraging and supportive, is just, anyway, I can't find the right words to say thank you, but I hope this sale will help somewhat. I know it's a weird medium to say thank you, but yeah, if you anyway, I'll stop talking about this. This is becoming silly. Yeah, so let's quickly talk about the paintings in this video. So this is a continuation from a video I uploaded a couple weeks ago where I painted some metal jugs. It's paintings, these are paintings I did when I was back at my parents' home back in France, and my stepmother loves collecting vintage items. She has a particular taste for vintage lanterns, and so in this video I'll be painting 3 of her lanterns. It was a challenge because it was both metal and glass and perspective, which are all things I am in no way comfortable painting. But it was the first time I painted things from life instead of pictures, and it was thoroughly enjoyable, and it was just really satisfying to feel like I was a bit more in control of the medium than I thought I was, and just managing to get results. And it was just such a test of my level, but at the same time it was really thrilling, if that's the right term. You can find all pictures of those objects in the description below. I think I'll upload them from Pinterest so you guys can see. They're not pictures of the objects as I was painting them, so they're not exact representation of how I was seeing them when I was painting them, but they are good approximations of what the object looks like in real life, if you guys want to double check that. Those photos will also be part of like reference packs I'll upload to my Patreon for my patrons. That's better. If you guys are interested in downloading them for free and using them for your own art, it'll be available on Patreon. The one that you're actually seeing on the screen right now will also be available as a real-time video on Patreon. Sorry if I keep drumming on about Patreon. It's just such a big part of my job right now that it's difficult not to mention it. But this second lantern is actually my favorite. It was so cute and so unusual looking, and even the inside where the wick would be that would be lit, the thing I'm painting right now, it was so intricate and so lovely and delicate. I love that lantern. My stepmom has that just really great taste for the objects that she picks out. She manages to get like the best deals on like the most amazing objects that are probably worth quite a bit more. It's brilliant. I wish I'd painted more of them when I was home, but it does take a little while, so I didn't manage to get too many in. I'll have one more video on that in that style in a couple weeks, where I paint 2 glass vases, and I think that will be the end of the studies I did when I was home. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed those little kind of compilations of objects. These paintings will all be part of the sale, so if you guys are interested in owning any of those originals, they'll all be up on my shop. The prices will be slightly lowered from what I would usually sell them at, so you can head over there if you wish. I want to apologise now for how fidgety I seem in the video, by the way. I didn't, you know, when you, I mean, it's sped up quite a bit. I don't know how much I sped up the video by, but it's at least, I think, 10 times. So I look really trembly and fidgety. Sorry, I tried to cut off my foot when I edited the video. I tried to zoom into the footage to cut off how much my foot was jittery. It worked sometimes and sometimes it didn't, so I hope you guys don't mind that too much. It made me laugh when I was uploading it. I was just, oh dear, I didn't realise I was so like vibratey. This last lantern was actually probably the toughest for me to paint, not only because the shape was actually quite tricky to get right, especially because there were wires wrapping around the glass and writing on the bottom and things like that, but also because it was the newest of the 3. So the fact that the other 2 were slightly more vintage, slightly more aged, slightly more damaged, meant that you could bring in a lot more colours and a lot more textures to various areas of them. So the first lantern, for example, the one that looked like brass, because it was brass and because it was aged, I could add a lot of colours to make it look like it'd been kind of battered and weathered and such. But this one was quite new and quite shiny and silvery, and so the whole lantern seemed to be one similar color everywhere, and I found it difficult to try and imagine what colors I could add in there to bring a bit more interest to the piece. So I think it ended up being various levels of grey and blue, which was interesting to paint in itself, because I had, as a result, to focus more on value than I did on texture, because these are 2 things that are helpful in bringing in the drawing, to be able to bring out background and foreground and light and colour. And so what was really tricky with this subject, and it's actually quite tricky to explain too, but I'm going to try, and I hope I won't be too confusing, but it was because it was an object that had a complex shape with a reflective surface, and that surface had the same texture pretty much everywhere and the same colour pretty much everywhere, with not much wear and tear to differentiate different areas. I had to try and not get bogged down in details that would conflict with one another visually. So if I had to kind of focus on what made the shape of the object understandable to the eye, and what made its material understandable, also without the 2 conflicting. So if I'd focused too much on trying to make the whole lantern look really reflective, which is partly what I might have done, then the detail of the reflection, the details of light on the surface, would have started to conflict with the actual shape of the object, especially if I didn't get my values right. And trying not to get bogged down into detail and going into the nitty-gritty too quickly is something that I'm still struggling not to do, and I suspect it's going to take me quite a lot of practice to get away from this habit. But it's something I mentioned quite a lot, I think, in my videos. But those particular studies here, those studies from life, from objects that had quite a complex structure to them and an interesting texture and a material that had a lot of detail in itself, was a really good practice. It's similar to what I was talking about when I was talking about when I was painting those portraits a day thing, where doing those studies really helps going to the essential and understanding the difference between how the object is understood in real life and how the object will be understood when it's painted. You require very different elements in the representation to make it understood to the eye as what it is in real life. Does that make sense? It's a topic I want to talk more about in the future, because I think it's quite an interesting thing, the divide between reality and what looks realistic. But anyway, this is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you're all really well. Take really good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.